Okay, first graders, today is your very last sound. And this is it. What do you think that is a picture of? It is called a pharaoh. We've colored a couple of Egyptian pictures this year, and it's very fitting that we're going to end the year by coloring another Egyptian picture because next year in second grade, at the very beginning of the year, you will start learning about ancient Egypt. This is called a pharaoh. What is a pharaoh? A pharaoh was like a mighty king. At one time, Egypt was a strong and powerful nation. And so the pharaoh, being the king of Egypt, was also a very mighty and powerful ruler. You might remember the story of Joseph, right? Joseph was sold into slavery into Egypt, and he became under the authority of the pharaoh. Because Joseph was such a diligent worker, he was given authority even though he wasn't Egyptian. And of course, you know the story of how he led his people, or he helped Egypt and the surrounding nations to survive a period of famine. And then his family came to live with him. Of course, many years later, Joseph and his family had died, but the Israelites found themselves in slavery under the Egyptians. And you know the story of how God brought them out of Egypt. We talked about that earlier this year. So, Pharaoh. Well, look at this word, Pharaoh. It's a very interesting word. I've got it written right here. If you were going to try to pronounce this word, you might pronounce it something like this. P-h-arrow, right? Because look at that PH. Your natural tendency is just to want to sound out the P and the H. We haven't learned that PH says anything else, so you might want to do that. But does that make sense? No, it doesn't. And so you may already know this, but if you don't, the PH makes the sound F. Pharaoh. You hear it at the beginning of that word. Now in this word you have Pharaoh. The O is long and the A, that's an interesting letter combination there. You don't see that often, but the A is silent and the O says its name. But the most important thing about Pharaoh is that PH says F. There are other words in the English language that look like this. In fact, there are quite a few of them, and one of them is a very common word like phone. Okay? Telephone has that PH in it. What does it say? It isn't pahone, it is phone. Then you have a word like phase. Phase means a period of time, okay? Phase. Look at this word. Gopher. Gopher. The small furry animals you might see along the road sometimes. Where is the PH in gopher? It's in the middle, isn't it? So once again, you see how these sounds sometimes can move around to different places in the word. Gopher. Ooh, that makes that easier to sound out, just knowing that the PH says F. Oh, look at this word. I know you've seen that. You've been learning this ever since TK or kindergarten. What is that word? Alphabet. Did you know you've been reading that PH for a long time? Alphabet. And you can even find PH in names. Okay, these are proper nouns like Philip. Or a girl's name that has PH at the beginning is Phyllis, but it begins with PHY. And then Ralph, as in Ralph in Mouse and the Motorcycle. Remember that name? Well, look, it has PH at the end. You would think it would be R-A-L-F, but that isn't the way this is spelled. It's R-A-L-P-H. So be on the lookout when you are reading words. There aren't too many that are like this, but when you see that PH together, you're going to know that it will say F, and it will be much easier for you to sound out the word. Now, there's one more interesting thing I want you to look at in the word Pharaoh. Notice this H on the end. Do you hear anything when I read the word Pharaoh? Listen, Pharaoh. What's the last thing you hear? It's the O, isn't it? Do you hear that H on the end? Is it Pharaoh? No, you do not hear that H. It is silent. There are some words where H is silent. I'm going to show you some of those words. Okay? Do you recognize any of these words? Okay, look at those words. First of all, I'm sure you've noticed they all have exclamation points at the end. Listen to how we would read these words. Ah, oh, yeah, hallelujah. Have you heard words like that before? Yes, of course you have. You probably say them all the time, or you might even combine two. Oh, yeah. Well, have you ever noticed that you're not actually pronouncing the H in these words? It isn't aha or yeah, okay? We just naturally drop off the H on the end of these words because we don't really pronounce words. We don't pronounce H's at the end. So it's just all you hear is A saying ah, oh, yeah, and hallelujah. You don't really hear the H on the end. And these words are used as exclamatory words. They're showing great emotion. Okay, now there are also other words, just like the PH can be at the beginning or in the middle. There are other words where the H is silent. Now, most of the time in words, guys, we hear that H, don't we? But you got to watch out for the ones, those exclamatory words where it comes at the end. And then there are just some exceptions, and I know you've seen, especially this one. What is that word? That word is hour. It looks like hour, but does that make sense? No. Now, this is hour as in an hour of time. Now, the word O-U-R means hour as in a group, our class. But H-O-U-R, it sounds exactly the same. And why? Because the H is silent. But this means an hour in time. Hour. Okay? There is another one. Have you seen this word before? It looks like honest, but that isn't a word that we know of. So let's try it with the H silent. Honest. You just hear the O making its short O sound, and the H is silent. Honest. Oh, now you know what that word is. Okay? Honest. To tell the truth. All right, how about this one? Your mom or dad might be growing these in the garden. Does that say herb? Some people might read it that way, but we know that the H is silent. So this word is actually herb. You have your ER says herb, okay? An herb is a plant that you can grow used for cooking. Herb. All right, now, once again, you can have a name that has this silent H. That's a very common name. John. It isn't Jahan, okay? It's just John. You don't hear that H in the middle. You just hear short O in the end, N at the end. John. And how about this one? shepherd. Shepherd. Okay? Now, this one can be tricky because it looks like it has the PH in the middle. And so you might be thinking that is going to say ph, and that would be a correct thought, of course, because we just learned that PH can say ph. And so you might try it shepherd. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is an exception where PH doesn't say ph in the middle of the word there, but there is still a silent letter, and what is it? Yeah, it's the H. The H is silent. So instead of shepherd, we don't really say it that way. We just say shepherd. You just hear the ER, and the H is silent. Shepherd. Okay, and that is your final sound. You have learned so many sounds this year, guys. And if you keep working on those and being word scientists and finding them in words and working it out, you are going to get to the point that you read without even thinking about these sounds anymore. And I'm sure that you're finding that you're getting there in many ways. So keep it up. I'm so proud of all you've done this year. Today, if you would like, you can color the picture of the pharaoh that's in your binder. Okay, and it looks like that. It's just like the other Egyptian pictures that we did. It's going to have dark colors because remember, this would have likely been done on the side of a cave wall or something similar to that. They didn't have paper and crayons, all right? And so you have dark colors, dark browns, oranges, yellows. So you can enjoy coloring that if you would like. That is optional. And then I just wanted to mention that there are a few books that we did not get to this year because of our slower pace. There's just a few books at the end of the curriculum. I wish we could read them, but we just weren't able to fit it in. But there is a book called Quoth the Prophet, and it is about the story of Joseph and the Pharaoh. It is an awesome book. So if you would like to pick that up today and read it, it's in your bag. Please feel free to do that. You'll be turning in all your books tomorrow because we have to get them ready for next year. But if you would like to do that today, I strongly recommend it. It's called Quoth the Prophet.